Hi, my name is Tracy Villatoro, and I would like to share with you my true story. When I tell someone that I know how they feel, I mean it. When I was 13 years old, my mother and I began attending a new church. And as a result, at age 13, attending this new church in this small town, I began experiencing rejection at my junior high and high school. Rejection is hard for anyone, isn't it? But it is especially hard for a 13-year-old who is just now learning who they are, and to be rejected by your friends at school and to feel the loneliness of not having any friends because of rejection. I know what it's like to feel that rejection. By the time I turned 14, I began having this desire in my heart from the Lord to learn how to play the guitar. So my pastor gave me a one-time only lesson. The lesson included him showing me 3 or 4 chords. I think it was only 3 chords. And he recorded me on an old tape recorder so I could hear how the strumming should sound. And then he said, "This is your one-time lesson." It was a 30-minute lesson. If you want to learn it, then you are going to have to be the one to do it. And so I know what it's like to have to learn something new, to be scared at the same time. But I was determined, and I put my trust in God because He was the one that was wanting me to learn how to play the guitar. He was the one wanting me to start learning to sing in front of people and to lead praise and worship. So after I started learning to play the guitar, which it didn't take very long, it was a blessing from God. After I learned how to play the guitar, my pastor asked me to start playing the guitar and leading praise and worship at our church. And I was only 14 years old. This was like a huge responsibility in my eyes to be placed in this kind of leadership. So I know what it's like to do things at a very young age and feel overwhelmed. You know, if the Lord is calling you to do something, whether you're 14 years old or whether you're 30 or whether in your 50s, 60s or whatever, just go ahead and do it. Like Nike says, just do it. And the Lord is going to give you the strength. He's going to supply whatever it is that you need. He will give you the tools that you need to accomplish that calling that He is placing on your life. Years later, when I was 26 years old, I had a horse accident. As a result of the horse accident, I broke my tailbone a few places, I hurt my back, I hurt my ankle. And as a result of the horse accident, I was unable to walk. I was on a walker for several months and I had to relearn how to walk. And so I know what it's like to be in pain from that type of an injury and to be in a hospital a long time, to not be able to walk and to be without a job because now you cannot walk, you cannot work, you cannot drive. But during the whole time while I was in the hospital and once I returned home, I began praying to God and asking Him, "Lord, please heal me. Please heal me. Help take the pain away." And you know what? I remember taking my first step without that walker. And I remember taking that step and it was in pain, but I took it. And I know it was because the Lord helped me take it. And I was just so happy when I took that first step. God was right there with me every step of the way, literally every step of the way. And He brought me out of that. And soon I began to be able to walk and not have any pain. And He completely healed me of that. After I healed from the horse accident, I returned to work and I worked for many years. But then I started to experience what it was like to be laid off from a position simply because they were going through layoffs. I know what it's like to be without a job, to come home and tell your family, to tell your children, "I lost my job today." And it was so heart-wrenching to see my children's faces, to see their mother worried that she was not going to be able to find a job. But I prayed. The first time I lost my job that particular season, I prayed all night long and I got on my computer and I searched for hours for a job. I began applying for job after job. And I remember when I came home that evening to tell my family that I had lost my job. I want you to hear this because I want you to hear what the power of a praying child has. My younger son, when I told them I was I had lost my job, my younger son, let's get into a circle and hold hands and pray that Mom finds another job. Now, he was very young at this time, but he had the prayer's heart. And we held hands and prayed, and so that night I began searching online all night long. The very next morning, I had a reply from one of the companies that I had applied for, and they wanted to see me. I think it was like a day or two later. The very next week, I started that position. So I was only without a job for 1 week, and it was because of God. It was because of prayer, whether it's from a child, whether it was from me praying at night. God supplied our needs with another job. If you remember, I told you about how I had a horse accident. 6 years later, after my horse accident, I had my very first back surgery. And trust me, I know what it's like to have a back surgery, to have a bone fusion done. And after having that back surgery, I knew what it was like to have extreme pain for several weeks and months even afterwards. But I put my trust in God, and I knew that He was my source of healing. I knew the doctors did what they could do, but I knew that God was going to do even more powerful of a work, and I knew that I could trust in Him to take care of me, to heal my body and to take the pain away. There are many seasons in our lives, aren't there? The next season that I had to experience, unfortunately, was the pain of divorce. How many of you have been through that experience? It's very, very difficult, very hard, isn't it? It challenges not only your emotions, but your sanity at many times. It challenges you physically because you become so stressed and you become sick. There are so many things that you have to experience as a result of going through the pain of divorce. I know what it's like to worry about your children having to go through the experience of their parents divorcing. I know that's such a hard time in their lives and in your lives. God was there for me every night that I would be crying on my pillow, crying myself to sleep, as the saying goes. And it was a hard time. I was crying a lot during that season, so I know what it's like to go through that season of divorce. But God is so faithful. He is always there for us. We can cry out to Him no matter the time of day or night. He is always on 24/7, isn't He? Speaking of surgeries, I also had to have a pacemaker put in. Now I had to go through what it was like to have a machine to depend on to beat my heart, to have my heart beat 100% of the time. The surgery went well. Everything was better the next day, but having a pacemaker put in is something that's very difficult to go through. You have to learn how to breathe again, and your whole life you have to now depend on that pacemaker. But you know who I put my faith and trust in, and it's God. Although I depend on this pacemaker and I'm counting on it to beat every single day, I count on God and I trust on Him and trust in Him to make my heart beat, to help me to breathe every day. He is the breath of my life. He is the joy of my life. The pacemaker helps me. God had put those physicians in place to help me breathe again, to keep my heart beating normally, but it was ultimately Him that helped me through that situation in my life of having to now deal with a pacemaker, which I still deal with it. And God is there for me. He helps me to breathe every day. He is the breath of my life every morning. Not that pacemaker. He puts the breath in me. He puts His Spirit in me and helps me breathe and live each and every day to its fullest. Several years ago, I went through the experience of having 2 strokes. And so I know what it's like to have your entire side paralyzed, to not be able to walk, to not be able to use your hand or your arm. And I was right-handed, and to not be able to speak very well. After having those strokes, I remember lying in bed crying each night and asking God, is this all there is for me? You know, I know what it's like to feel like every time you turn around, something is going wrong. But I continue to trust and I continue to pray and put my faith in Him. After the season of the strokes had ended, praise God, I began writing songs on my keyboard. It was just a desire that God had put in my heart, and He wanted me to start writing these songs for a new season that was coming up that I had no idea about. I began writing songs and traveling the U.S., and I would be ministering at different churches both alone, and I also began singing with other groups. And I did this probably for about 2 years, and it was a wonderful time in my life. I was so enjoying being able to travel and to sing and to write songs, go into the recording studio and producing albums. I so enjoyed this time of my life. But you know, I got to the point once again that I was lonely, and I wanted a husband. And during this time that I was traveling, I started praying, Lord, I want a husband, and this is what I want in a husband. And lo and behold, at one of the places that I was ministering at, I was in Virginia, I ran into my soon-to-be husband. And life became grand again. He was a pastor there, and we became married, and so we began serving the Lord together, traveling throughout the states, ministering at different places. We did a lot of missionary work. We did a lot of traveling, serving the Lord together, and it was a wonderful time. After the season of our serving the Lord together in the missionary field, the Lord brought us to where we are now, and God has blessed my husband as being the founding pastor for our church, Victory Church in Odessa, Texas. And we are loving serving the Lord together. We love our people there. The people are wonderful. We love serving the Lord together. We have a wonderful congregation. We love serving together as he pastors and I lead the praise and worship there. It's just a wonderful time. But you know, good times don't always seem to last forever, do they? Once again, I had to start having more back surgeries. And so, as you can see, I've gone from surgery to surgery to surgery. I know what it's like to be in so much pain and always turning around the corner and having to have another surgery for something else. But God, thank God that He is there for us. No matter what turn is coming around the corner, He is there for us. My church family was there for me, is there for me, no matter what I go through surgeries. And I'm just thanking God that I'm at a point in time in my life right now that the surgeries have subsided and I'm doing well. Our church is doing well. After all I have lived, from being 13 years old and going through rejection because of being a believer and going to a new church, through back surgeries, pacemaker, strokes, I can't even begin to tell you all the surgeries, from losing jobs to not having any money to pay my bills, to not having a husband and then trying to find another husband because I was lonely, and to finding where God ultimately wanted me to be, and it's now leading praise and worship in our church. If God can do that for me, He can do it for you. There's no reason why He would do it for me and not for you. He's not a respecter of persons. Anything is possible for Him. Everything is possible for Him. I don't care what it is. Open your hearts to Him today. Tell Him what you want. Tell Him what you need. He's there listening to you, wanting to help you, but you have to give your heart to Him. You have to open your eyes and your heart and give yourself to Him. I just encourage you to keep praying. Keep your focus on the Lord. Keep praying and reaching out to Him. It's a daily thing. It's a moment-by-moment thing. Pray, pray, pray to Him every single day. And if you're in the Odessa area, I would encourage you and would love to invite you to come to our church, which is Victory Church of Odessa, and it's at 2400 West 81st Street. And we would love to have you there. Our services start at 10 a.m. and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you. Bye-bye.
Anytime a heart turns from darkness to light, anytime temptation comes and someone stands to fight, anytime somebody lives to serve and not be served, I know God is on the move, on the move.